Part of our work as advisors is not only to own our own regulation, but also to create space for the families we lead to create safety for this work to be done.
There are really good qualified people out there to help individuals. And if we are the people who work with family groups, we have to know who those people are and know when to bring them in and know that exactly in the situation you're talking about, to not just say, okay, well, he came back from rehab, so let's just go back to everything being normal. But now it's not normal. And let's be courageous enough to talk about the fact that it's not normal. But the families are often in a situation where engaging these resources and paying for them is not a stumbling block, right?
Right.
You have got a huge business, and now if you need to pay someone, a coach or a therapist, to support someone to be able to succeed in a role, well, you're not going to say, well, no, we don't want to spend the money on that, because the risk you're putting the company at by, just putting the people there and crossing your fingers is many times what it would cost to bring in a resource.
That's right. That's right. So let's talk about, this premise of conflict and speaking our truth. And and not to put it down, but there's a book out called Radical Candor, and there's folks who show up with this premise of like, well, just freaking tell someone that what's going on and just suck it up, man. Take it and let's go. I don't have time for bullshit. Just lay it out and tell them what's your thinking. And that's it. That's the key. And that in itself is a huge problem. And I'll push back on that all day long.
It can be taken too far and too literally, to the point where it doesn't do what it's advertised to be doing.
Right. Because here's the problem with radical candor. It has a huge assumption. And the assumption is that where I'm having my candor is in a space with someone who currently is well regulated and can handle my candor in a way that it won't come off as an attack, they won't get triggered, and they won't go into a shadow mode of some repetitive pattern based upon the past history of whatever's going on. And this idea of regulation is not one that's talked about all that much, but part of our work as advisors is not only to own our own regulation, but also to create space for the families we lead to create safety for this work to be done. It's part of the reason I say the one-on-one work is necessary, because part of our work is to help the individual get to a higher space of safety, so that when they're in the room later with Steve and I or whoever, they're able to hold themselves without leaving mentally and emotionally, because whatever's coming at them. I mean, we've been in rooms where family members are basically saying, you're not carrying your weight. Or key employees are saying, you're not doing your job and I work for you and you're a family member and you're not getting shit done. Now that an employee of an owner or a family member to say someone's not doing their job is a very dangerous thing for that person to say, right? Arguably, because they could be let go, or they might be blackballed, or they might be put into all these things that can happen. So, Steve, what can you say about the importance of creating safety in the environment?
You're reminding me of a matriarch who hired me a few years ago. She said she wanted someone to, quote, referee our family meetings. And I said, well, I don't love the choice of words. I don't love the choice of words, but thank you for forewarning me of what to expect, which I already kind of knew what to expect after having met her and her sons. But that was a perfect case where me doing the one-on-ones with them and then saying, well, okay, so you want to say this to your brother or your mother. So if you say it the way you just shared it with me, how do you think that's going to land? Well, no, because then she's going to, okay, so let's work on another way of sharing what your concern is in a way that is more likely to be heard as opposed to reacted to. And so coaching the people to, first of all, sometimes it's to have the courage to bring things up because sometimes they're scared, and other times it's the other way. They want to come in too hot, right? And so coaching them to come in at the right level so what they're saying is heard, but not heard in a negative way. But then also, when you talk to the other person, you know who's going to receive that message from that other family member. We got to kind of warm them up to say, well, I've been talking with Bob, and he's not so happy about this, and he may be bringing it up. So, be ready for the fact. So warming the people up so that when they all get in the room, they know you're there to hold the space. And sometimes that's harder than it should be. But the more work we do in advance with them, the easier theoretically that holding the space is because we've done the pre-work. But I understand you were talking about advisors who are scared. It's because if you think you can just walk in there and facilitate a family meeting, and you've never really done it, and you haven't done the pre-work, and then stuff gets real quick, and you don't know what to do. You've kicked the hornet's nest, and you didn't give anyone the hornet repellent first, and so now you have caused a problem. So sometimes well-meaning advisors can make things worse if they don't know how to enter the system and prepare things to have those discussions. And that can sometimes take weeks and months and quarters and years.